Hey everyone, it's Lindy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Frequently Asked Fridays. If you're brand new to my YouTube channel, I have a lot of videos talking all about selling online, primarily using eBay's platform. But this video series on my channel is solely dedicated to answering all of your questions and filling these videos with as much information as possible. But there's also something super special about this video series, and that is my partnership with Wholesale Ninjas. Because every single episode, Wholesale Ninjas gives away a 100 count liquidation lot to one of my viewers that asks a question to be featured each episode. Today's episode is episode number 22. That means we've already had 21 winners of free merchandise for their eBay store with the series so far. So now before I start in with all of the questions that came in from the last episode, I do want to take just a quick minute to thank Wholesale Ninjas for partnering with me for this video series, because if you don't know who they are by far my favorite liquidation company that I have ever sourced merchandise from for my eBay store. Buying from liquidation companies is always a gamble, but with Wholesale Ninjas, I have found that they have the absolute best quality control of any company that I've ever worked with. Everything always arrives impeccably packaged, which is very, very important when you're purchasing things like health and beauty or personal care, especially cosmetics, because things like that can break during transit, and the more breakage you have before it even reaches your doorstep, the less profit you can expect to make overall. I've gotten a lot of boxes from other companies where items are just thrown in boxes with little to no care, and half of the box arrives damaged to me, and so I can't even sell half the stuff that I got. Wholesale Ninjas also does a one-of-a-kind thing that I've never seen any other liquidation company do regarding their pallets. They actually offer what is referred to as a pallet breakdown service, which means that instead of scheduling an expensive freight delivery and having a giant pallet of goods delivered to your house, if the pallet qualifies for the pallet breakdown service, they actually break down the pallet into smaller, more manageable boxes, and they ship those boxes to you via ground, which is cheaper and faster than freight delivery. And it's such a simple and brilliant concept that I think is a really missed opportunity for a lot of liquidation companies out there. But Wholesale Ninjas is already on top of their game. They're already providing this service, which is fantastic for sellers like me who love receiving pallets. Also, speaking of pallets, for the month of July, Wholesale Ninjas is running a special on pallets. If you use code LINDEYJULY, you will get $35 off of any pallet on the Wholesale Ninjas website. So I will make sure to link to some of my favorite down in the video description, and I will also make sure to put that coupon code down there for you as well. But if pallets aren't exactly your thing, I do still have the coupon code LINDEY25 that gets you $25 off of any box lot on Wholesale Ninjas website. Now, of course, pallets are not the only option at Wholesale Ninjas. They do have several different kinds of box lots starting at units of 100. And if you want a chance to win a free liquidation lot from Wholesale Ninjas, let me tell you what you need to do in order to enter to win. All you have to do is ask me a question. Just go down into the comment section and ask me a question to be featured on the next episode of Frequently Asked Fridays. Just make sure to start your question with 5 question marks, because that is what is going to indicate entry into the giveaway. All right, let's get started with the selected questions that came in from the last episode. Jessely Hartel asks, can you talk about how the delivery of the pallet went? I live in a residential neighborhood and I do not have a pallet jack, but I want to get into pallets. So this question was regarding the recent delivery that I just had of almost, how much was it? 6,000 cosmetic units. It was a giant pallet full of cosmetics that was delivered via freight. So I do have a video that I did probably a year and a half ago, somewhere around there, where I talk in detail about what it's like having pallets delivered to your house. Even though that video is kind of old, it's still completely relevant, so I'll make sure to link it down in the video description. But in that video, I talk about any additional charges that might be involved for residential having a lift gate, but really, I don't have a pallet jack either. I don't have a forklift. All I have is a garage and an empty corner for someone to put a pallet in. When you order from any liquidation company, if you're getting a pallet of merchandise, make sure to specify that you need a lift gate, because a lift gate is going to be how the truck driver gets the pallet off of the truck, and they will supply their own pallet jack to do that. So what happens every single time is there's always a box truck that has a lift gate. They basically lift the pallet up with a pallet jack, put it on the lift gate, and then bring it down, roll it into my garage, and that's that. From there, I can break down the pallet however I need to at my own speed. I don't have to have a pallet jack unless I want to move it around in my garage, which I don't. Drivers that drive trucks that have lift gates on them are very used to driving in residential areas, so that's not going to be anything new for them. However, there might be some upcharges with delivery, because sometimes if you need a lift gate, there's going to be an additional charge for that, and also an additional charge if they're having to deliver in a residential area, because it's usually off of their route and it's a little bit more difficult to maneuver in a residential area. So they want to be compensated for those inconveniences. But again, that's another reason why I really appreciate Wholesale Ninjas, because they do offer that pallet breakdown service. So if you were to get a pallet of goods, let's say the Target Mastercase pallets that I love, for a flat fee, including the shipping, they'll break down the pallet and send it via ground, so you don't even have to worry about having a big truck deliver with a lift gate. Das Bird Box asks, has anyone bought a pallet of personal care and resold it garage sale style versus on eBay? I'm curious if it's worth it and successful. Yes, I actually love doing it that way. Although since the pandemic, I haven't really had any yard sales. It's been almost a year and a half now since I've had one. But I found that selling things like personal care was a surefire way to bring in business when I was doing them. Items sold fast and people were very appreciative of it. Although when I did it in a little bit different way than I think you are implying. Basically what I will do is I will get a bunch of personal care or health and beauty merchandise, and I will take the most valuable stuff that I feel is worth listing on eBay, and I will list all of that on eBay. But then everything else that's maybe just not worth the weight to ship, or maybe there's a little bit of damage, all of that stuff I will put out at a yard sale. And usually I will do something like everything is $1 or everything is 2 for $3, because it's basically just a way for me to get some money back and increase my cash flow so that I can flip that money and go buy more merchandise with it. So whenever I'm blowing stuff out like that at a yard sale, I'm not necessarily making a profit on it. It's just for cash flow purposes, and the only profits I'm really making are what I'm putting online. But I have found that it is a surefire way to move out merchandise for sure. People at my yard sales loved it. Scudder Martin asks, what do you do with the makeup that is expired? Do you sell it offline or toss or lot it up? So a lot of the time, the makeup that's expired or damaged, I will just put into a large box, and I will typically sell it on Facebook Marketplace for a very small fraction of the price that I paid, just again, to try to get some cash flow back. I feel like I need to do a video or talk a little bit more about cash flow, because it is very, very vital to keeping your business operating. You know, just because something is damaged, try to get some money back for it if you can. Even if you're only getting back a quarter on your dollar, you would be losing that full dollar if you weren't getting something back for it. So a lot of the time, anything damaged or expired, especially regarding cosmetics, I will just put in a box and I will flip it on Facebook Marketplace, and I will just say, box of cosmetics, perfect for testing or girl time play, $10 or $20, take all. And usually I don't have a problem moving them. I do get inquiries about, you know, why the makeup is so cheap, and I just tell them that either it's damaged, it might be past date, or there's a package opened. That's why I specifically say that the cosmetics are good for testers or for play. Diane Schultz asks, how does the beginner with a lot of low price items learn to list items faster? Okay, so anytime I get asked how you can list faster, I always recommend listing in batches, because when you list in batches, for me anyway, it really seems to make the process go a lot faster. You know, if you take some time and you just create all of the basic drafts of a whole bunch of items, and then you just take all of the pictures another time, and then you link the pictures to the listings at a different time. It just seems like when I do batches of maybe 5 or 10 items at a time, I can get items listed a lot faster. faster. But if you are listing items that have a lower profit margin and you're needing to rely on volume to get your profit up, the absolute best thing for you to do is make sure that you are listing things that have barcodes. It is very, very difficult for you to speed up the listing process if you're selling a lot of lower ticket items that need unique created listings every single time. My biggest example of this is clothing. This is one of the reasons why I got out of clothing. It was because I couldn't get my hands on high enough dollar clothing pieces that was worth the extra time listing. So that's why I moved to consumable products that have barcodes, because I have a barcode scanner, which lately I've noticed a lot of you guys asking about my barcode scanner. It was like $12 on Amazon. It's super simple. If you have something with a barcode, and of course I have nothing with a barcode sitting in front of me. Why would I? I'll just pretend like my coffee mug's got a barcode. So you would just basically put the cursor in the search bar on eBay and you would just scan the barcode, and then all of the search results for anything linked to that barcode would come up in search. And then you can more easily piggyback off of a listing. It already keeps all of the item specifics in there. It even keeps the title in there, the eBay category. So there's not a whole lot of information that you have to go in and edit yourself, which really speeds up that listing process. I do have a couple of videos where I demonstrate how I list items with barcodes. I'll make sure to link those down in the video description. But it's amazing how much faster you can list items if they have a barcode, as opposed to listing a bunch of unique one-of-a-kind pieces that don't have a barcode that you have to build listings from scratch every single time. Laura Litch asks, I just began my reselling and I'm curious how you felt when you started out. Did you have the up and down feelings from excited to achievement to what in the world am I doing? Is this going to work? Laura, I have a secret for you. Come closer. I still have all those feelings every day. At least once a day, I feel like a genius and then I feel like a failure in something that has to do with my business. I question myself all the time. Am I doing things right? Am I doing things wrong? Do I need to change things? Do I need to keep them the same? Am I making a mistake? Should I go back to this? Should I try that? It never ends. So to answer your question, that is exactly how I felt in the beginning, and that is exactly how I feel now. The only difference is that now I have several more years of experience, so I can more quickly shift my train of thinking if it starts to take a turn for the negative. But it's completely natural for you to not feel like you know what you're doing, question everything, think you're doing things wrong. And that's why, I always said for the longest time, one of the biggest mistakes that I made in the very beginning was quitting too soon. So I've been on the eBay platform for over 15 years now, and I was a hobbyist seller for about a decade. I just kind of, listed things and sold things at my leisure. It wasn't really until about 5 years ago that I actually decided that, I am going to make this a legit business. I am going to only work for myself because I just got tired of working for other people. But for the first 10 years when I was a hobbyist, I quit all the time because I kept thinking that I was doing everything wrong. I would put up a listing, it would be up for 2 weeks, nobody wanted to buy it, and so I'd pull the listing down and basically give up. It took me a lot of time to figure out that sometimes things just need to sit and wait to sell. Just because something doesn't sell right away, it doesn't mean you picked the wrong item. Doesn't mean you did the listing wrong. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible seller. It just means that sometimes things take a while to sell. I was also really, really afraid to fail. And it took me falling flat on my face at least half a dozen times before I realized, oh, failure is a part of learning. And ever since I learned that, boy, I am ready to try anything, because if I fail, I just treat it as a learning experience. So having a roller coaster of emotions like that is perfectly normal. Just keep doing you and don't be afraid to try new things. Helenita Williams asks, hi Lindey. Hi Helenita. Love your channel, very informative. Thank you so much. I recently purchased a cosmetics lot. Some of the items were not sealed. Is it safe to sell unsealed cosmetics in Helen's attic? So yes, it is. As a matter of fact, not all cosmetics are sold sealed. I do get this question a lot regarding cosmetics. If you get items that aren't sealed, does that make them damaged? Are you not allowed to sell them? And the answer is you can absolutely sell them. I get cosmetics that aren't sealed all the time. Really, all you need to do is just open it up and make sure it's not used. Just be very, very careful when you do it. Just open it up, especially with tubes of lipstick, because it's very, very easy to pull the cap off and hit the lipstick and damage it. Just very, very carefully open it up, make sure it's not used, put it back together, and then list it. Something that I like to do whenever I have a cosmetic item that's not sealed is I actually like to photograph it, showing that it is open so that the buyer is not surprised. So if there's a tube of lipstick that's not sealed, I like to photograph it with the cap off, turn the lipstick up so that people can see the real shade of the lipstick. If I have a compact that's not sealed, I will actually photograph it open so that they can see that the compact is open and not sealed. As long as you're letting your buyer know that it is unused, there should be no issue. June Hodge asks, how do you like to price things? Do you like to do whole numbers or end it with 99 cents? Or do you prefer to end it with a random number? Also, which do you prefer, charge shipping or free shipping? Love you, girl. Thank you so much, June. So I'm kind of up in the air. I'm kind of all over the place just a little bit. So to answer your first question about how do I like to price things, 99 cents, whole numbers, random numbers, I am a random number kind of girl. I am that person that sets her alarm clock at the most random oddball numbers. I do the same thing with the microwave, timers, everything. If I'm microwaving something, I will microwave it for 37 seconds. If I'm waking up in the morning, I'm setting my alarm for 6:23 a.m. I do the same thing for the most part when I'm pricing items. However, I do tend to lean more towards 88. I like eights. Might do 88, or I might do 76, or I might do 943. Who knows? And a lot of that also has to do with the fact that I'm always running sales. So even if I price my item at $10 or $9.99, if I'm running a sale, it's gonna end up being a random number anyway. And then to answer your question about charging shipping or doing free shipping, up until about a week ago, I was always doing free shipping on anything that was going into a flat rate envelope, a regional A box, or first class. And I was charging shipping on anything that weighed over a pound that wouldn't fit in those flat rate packages. But recently I learned that there's likely to be a postage rate increase coming the 29th of August, which I did a video not too long ago. If you missed it, I'll make sure to link it, where the Postal Regulatory Commission requested a postage rate increase to take effect at the end of August, and it's a pretty big hike. It's almost 7% for first class. And this is another price hike that's making me question the free shipping model, because small sellers like me, we're gonna end up eating way too much in shipping costs if we keep doing free shipping. So about a week and a half ago, I started having even small first class items charge shipping just to kind of see how the market responded. Would those items still sell? Would I get any pushback from buyers? So I'm kind of in a test phase with charging shipping right now, and I do plan to let you guys know how I feel like that's going, but it is going to take a couple of months for me to get some items listed with the charge shipping model and get an idea of how that is going before I can report back on it. Laura Bravo asks, hi Lindey. Hi Laura. Will you ever consider selling clothes again? Some sellers have 2 eBay stores. What are your thoughts on having 2 eBay stores? So usually I'm not very shy about telling people I'm not really a huge fan of selling clothing, because I'm really not. I just did clothing for, 2.5, 3 years, kind of burned myself out on it. And then I got into selling things with a barcode, and I started doing health and beauty. And when I got into seeing how fast it was to list items that had barcodes, and I started seeing how nice it was to have replenishable goods so that I just had to create the listing once and then sell multiple products under it, really don't miss selling clothing too much, if you know what I mean. Although there are some clothing pieces that I absolutely don't mind selling at all. I love selling things like, men's packages of undershirts, socks, underwear, undergarments like bras or hosiery, because I still consider stuff like that consumable, and I really like to sell things in a consumable market. Also a lot easier to photograph things just using a single photo box versus having an entire room set up with a lighting kit, a mannequin, a big backdrop. And that's usually what's involved when you're selling clothing, because you have to be able to photograph it in a large area. However, I have noticed that Wholesale Ninjas does offer some clothing boxes. They have ones for like 100 units, 250 units, 400, 500 units. So I'm kind of curious to see what's in those. You know what happens when I get a little curious. So let me know down in the comment section if you want to see what's in one of those boxes. Maybe I'll consider getting one. Because there's nothing wrong with trying new things, even if that new thing is something I used to do that I think I don't like anymore. So now, regarding having 2 eBay stores, I do have 2 eBay stores, but it is for a completely different reason than I think a typical seller would. I have my public eBay store and then I have my private eBay store. So my public eBay store is the one that I'm showing you guys what I'm listing in there. I'm showing you what is selling in that store. And it's also the store that I use whenever I do my monthly sales recaps with you guys, where we talk about gross sales, profits, and all of that. And then I do have my private eBay store, and that is the store that I use to sell things like retail arbitrage or wholesale merchandise that I get that I don't necessarily want thousands of viewers to know about. Because I've done an entire video where I talked about early on, I put myself out of business on a lot of products that I was selling, showing way too much on my YouTube channel, because a lot of the merchandise that I was selling was very, very easily accessible. And even just 100 people watching my videos going and selling that exact same item can really damage the market price. And that's exactly what ended up happening early on in my YouTube channel. So I very quickly realized that certain items I was going to have to keep out of the public and keep it in my private eBay store. But as a general rule, I only think that having 2 eBay stores is only necessary if you're just selling wildly different items, or if you're selling a lot of merchandise that's wildly different items. Like if you're selling lipsticks and car parts, yeah, you might want to have those in 2 separate stores. But if you're selling things like clothing, accessories, makeup, personal care, and maybe a few office supplies sprinkled in here and there, just go ahead and put it all under the same eBay store. That's what categories are for. I also feel like you should keep everything in the same eBay store because it's a lot faster for you to build up feedback. Because if you have multiple stores, all of your feedback is spread out across numerous stores, and it's really hard to get your feedback numbers up if you're constantly selling a few things out of each store. All of your feedback isn't applied to one account. But of course, it is completely up to you if you want to decide to manage multiple eBay stores, but in my opinion, I generally think that you should just stick with one store and keep it all centrally located. Peggy Gleason-Gannon asks, "Hi Lindey." Hey Peggy. "At what point is it wise to diversify to selling platforms? I'm finding it a little overwhelming to try to keep up with the sales on 3 sites. Any tips?" So here's the thing with selling on multiple platforms. I used to be all for cross-posting, right? I think it is a really, really good idea to spread out your merchandise across various platforms so you can get more eyeballs on your merchandise to get it sold faster. But Peggy, exactly what you said is 100% true. It is a little bit overwhelming. If you have one primary platform, which I would refer to as my hub, so like eBay would be my hub. Everything I posted on eBay would get put on Poshmark, or it would get put on Mercari, or I might have some stuff on Amazon. Everything gets spread around and it is a lot to manage. So typically what I would suggest is for you to pick your hub being your main platform that you feel like you do the most business on, and maybe just list your items on there and give yourself a time frame and say, you know, if something doesn't sell within 2 months of being listed on eBay, then I'm gonna go ahead and cross-post it over to Mercari, or I'll choose to cross-post it over to Poshmark. But I don't necessarily think it's a very good idea to just automatically cross-post everything onto multiple platforms, because what happens if your item would have just sold in 2 weeks on eBay? You basically wasted time. You see what I'm saying? The time that you spent cross-posting it right away to multiple platforms is time you could have spent listing more merchandise on your primary platform. So since I started getting really tired of being overwhelmed juggling multiple platforms, so I just started putting everything in my eBay store. And when I'm like walking around my inventory, if I'm noticing something that has just been sitting in inventory way too long, at that point, I might go ahead and cross-post it on a platform like Facebook Marketplace so I can try to sell it locally a little bit faster, or I might put it on Mercari or Poshmark. But I just started noticing this routine of very quickly cross-posting items that would eventually just sell on my main platform anyway, so it really felt like a waste of time cross-posting at that point. D Wood asks, do you use eBay templates? Do you find that you have some that you don't use? Do you modify them after they've outlived their usefulness, or just create more? Your videos and information have been so dang helpful. I'm new to this 6 months in, and your info has helped push me faster than I expected. Can't thank you enough. I'm so happy to help. So to answer your question about templates, I used to use templates before when I was listing clothing where I didn't have barcodes, but now my listing process is I don't use the templates at all unless we're talking about the description templates. Those are the only ones that I use now. So I'm assuming that you're talking about, where you create the listing template, where you have the template with the defaulted category, a defaulted title, a defaulted price. You're basically creating an entire listing and keeping that as your template. Those I used to use when I was selling jeans or dresses. I would have templates for each kind of category. But since I started listing things that have barcodes, I don't necessarily use those templates anymore, because what I do is I search by barcode and then I just piggyback off of sold listings, and I basically, change things like the photos and the description, and of course the price, the shipping, all of that. So now the only templates that I use are the ones that are in the description box. Now in those templates, I have different ones, like for items that are expiring. It's just a very, very basic template where I have an area for the expiration date, or I have one for cosmetics where it's just a very basic description, and then I have a spot for a shade, and so on and so forth. But really at this point, those are the only kind of templates that I'm using. RV Butterfly Wholesale and Thrifting asks, great video, Lindey. Thank you. However, what if you have a lot of inventory already and you want to start the ABC shelf order? How would you do that now? Thank you. So that is regarding what I was talking about in the last Frequently Asked Friday video. Someone was asking about how to basically do an inventory system for items that are just open on the shelf and they're having trouble finding things. So if you already have items on shelves and you're wanting to start an inventory system, just go in and edit your listings and make note of where those items are. For instance, if you have an open shelf and you just have a whole bunch of stuff open on your shelf, if you want to divide that shelf into quadrants, like you want to say that this entire shelf is shelf A, and then you have quadrants 1, 2, and 3, just basically look at your shelf and say, okay, what items are in this quadrant here? And then go into those listings and just simply state that they are in A1 or they are in A3, and just keep items where they are. You absolutely don't have to pull everything off of your shelves to start a brand new inventory from scratch. Just have the items where they sit and just make note of where they are and put that in the listing. At least that's what I would do. Alicia Cosenza asks, hi Lindey, how do you take pictures of your bigger items? Do you use a ring light and a backdrop? So now I absolutely try to limit myself to only photographing items that I can fit in my light box, because it's one of those light boxes that has the LED strip lights. It has its own lighting kit. So now most of the items that are too big to fit in that photo box, those are most likely going to be items that I'm putting on Facebook Marketplace. And whenever I do that, I just basically photograph those items in my garage, or I do it outside. I'll go ahead and put up some sample photos here on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, but I don't use ring lights if I'm photographing things outside. I try to just use natural light. So if I'm photographing big things like chairs or tables, or in this example here where I'm photographing something like a large purse or some Nerf guns that are getting listed on eBay, I just find something nice to set them on. I make sure that there's plenty of sunlight and we just shoot the photographs outside. I really like the way a lot of that stuff looks with the bright green grass. I feel like it makes it look extra appealing. Don Schwartz asks, how many returns do you get a month? Let's find out. The last I looked, my return rate was higher than it normally was, but it's still fairly low. I don't get a lot of returns. That is a question that I do get pretty frequently, because I do offer 60-day free returns, which means if my buyer doesn't like their merchandise, they can send it back and I pay for the return shipping. And then I do get people asking about returns with selling things like cosmetics and personal care. And I have found that my return rate is really pretty low considering. I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm selling things that people already like and use every day. So there's a very, very small likelihood that they're actually going to want to return it. Looks like my return rate right now is just under 1%. 0.90% represents 8 out of 891 total transactions. So my return rate is less than 1%, which I think is pretty darn good. Sometimes you really cannot control how high your return rate is. Sometimes you're just gonna have buyers that want to return things. But one of the things that I definitely try to do before I list and sell an item is I try to think to myself, if I was the buyer, how would I feel receiving this? I try to be as accurate as possible in the description so people know what they're getting. And I always want to make sure that there is accurate representation in the photos so that there's no surprises when the product arrives. And then of course, you have to make sure that you package everything nicely so that the item doesn't arrive damaged. Usually, if you do all of those things, you can keep your return rate at a minimum. All right, it's about that time. Are you ready to find out who our 22nd winner is? Drum roll, please. The winner, chosen by random comment selection, is Heather Brockhouse. Congratulations, Heather. I've already replied to your comment. Just get with me and I will make sure that you get your free lot from Wholesale Ninjas. Heather asks, if you could change one thing about eBay, what would it be? Oh boy, I can only pick one? It's going to take me a minute. I really, really wish that now that eBay has finally enacted and rolled out managed payments to just about every seller out there now, that they would make it possible to do automatic payments when accepting best offers. I think that's probably one of the biggest pain points for eBay sellers is when we get offers from buyers and we accept them, or if we send offers to buyers and they accept our offer, we still have to wait for that buyer to pay for it. They can take days to pay before we can open an item unpaid case, and then they get more days to pay after that. I think this would really limit the amount of disadvantages that this has to sellers. For instance, it would stop buyers from sending multiple offers on multiple items and just deciding to pay for the cheapest offer that was accepted. I've had that happen to me numerous times where I accept an offer from a buyer and they actually tell me in the messages to just cancel it because they got a better offer price accepted from another seller. So I think if sellers knew that they had to pay for the item as soon as the offer was accepted, that would stop that, because frankly, that's just really annoying. And then the next thing, I don't know exactly how many times this happens to people, but I know that there used to be a time where it was just a constant thing. It was other sellers sending offers to the same items that they were selling to other sellers to basically get the item off of the market so that they could sell theirs. Does that make sense, or did I just confuse you? If there's 3 coffee mugs listed for sale and I am one of the sellers, if I want my coffee mug to sell, I could go to the other 2 sellers that are selling that same coffee mug, send offers, get them to accept it, and then just not pay, because now those are no longer on the market. My coffee mug is the only one that's available for sale. And that's a way for some sellers to screw other sellers over and get their merchandise off the market so that they're the only seller of an item. And I think if you had to pay for an item as soon as the offer was accepted, that would really cut down on that as well. And then again, it would assist in the cash flow of us small business owners, because if we sell something, the faster we can get the money for it, the better. You know, we want to sell merchandise. We want to ship it out. We want to get it off of our store shelves. We want to get the money so we could buy more merchandise so we can turn inventory. But if somebody's bought something, it's no longer available for sale and it's still sitting on our shelves and we're still waiting to get paid for it. In what world can someone go buy something and not pay for it and still be claiming dibs so that nobody else can buy it? I really, really don't like it, and I really, really wish it was something that eBay would change. All right, you guys, that's all for today. The next episode of Frequently Asked Fridays will be posted on Friday, July the 16th. So if you haven't yet, make sure to go down into the comment section and ask a question so that you can be entered to win in the next episode. Just remember to put your 5 question marks, because that is going to indicate entry into the giveaway. If you like this video and this video series, I would appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell if you haven't already. And don't forget to check the video description. I always put a lot of useful information in there, as well as everything that I referenced in this video. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you with my next video. Bye-bye.